Well, hello everyone, and welcome to my video. My name is Gary Jones. I'm a UFO field researcher. What that means is I study and research the subject of ufology in its many areas, and I also investigate UFO sightings as well. Now, the purpose of this video is to talk more about a case that I've been investigating now and looking into for over 3 years. It's called the Pentyrch UFO Incident. It happened in February 26, 2016. And not long after that, I did get involved in some preliminary research, and around October 2017, the real investigations actually began. Now, this is still an ongoing case. There's a lot of work to be done, but what I want to do now is I want to go more into the actual investigations that have been done so far. I want to talk more about what we actually did, how we came to the conclusions, what techniques we used, what actual equipment was brought to the areas, witness statements, and of course freedom of information requests, and any other thing that is relevant to the actual case that we've put together. Now, by the time that I'm finished, the purpose of these videos will be to enhance your understanding. I don't want you to just read about it and hear what I have to say in presentations. I want you to see how I was able to put this information together, how others who helped us put information together. I think that's important because this case is unlike any other UFO case that's come along in recent history. We've had many other UFO sightings and many other interesting things happen, but nothing on this scale. And the purpose of this is to enhance your understanding and to show why what I've found and what I've put together is more relevant now than it ever has been. Now, another reason I am making these videos is because I want to show my appreciation to those who have been supportive of the Pentyrch UFO Incident, those who have come to our conferences, those who have spoken to us online, and those who have interviewed us, and many more. I want you to understand this case more intricately. I want you to appreciate the work that has gone into it. And it's not just to show my support. I also want to look at the critics, because I'm not afraid of people being critical. I've got no problem answering questions or having long, in-depth discussions about the actual case and what it involves. And if anything, the critics who have looked at our case in the beginning would say, yeah, I think there's something interesting, or you haven't done this correctly, or did you do this? Well, by the time I finished explaining what I've done and how we came to our conclusions, those critics usually appreciate our work. It's those people out there who seem to find great pleasure in just trolling, trying to debunk or discredit the work that we have done. And I'm sorry to say, but I can't engage with those people. There's nothing worse than a person who gets up in the morning and decides that they're going to attack something without properly understanding it and then being an arsehole about it in the future when someone challenges them. These videos will silence those people, and if they don't, well, it just shows that they're not capable of understanding anything but their own ignorance. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go on Google Earth, take you down to the Pentyrch fields, and just look at the area from an aerial view and just show you exactly how this EMF study of ours was actually accomplished. So I'm just going to type in Pentyrch. Good old Google Maps taking us right in. Okay, as you can see, look, there is Pentyrch. And here, just a bit further up, remember I said about the quarry and Tinnacoid Road? Well, there's the old quarry. Here, if it shows up, this is Tinnacoid Road. This is the field where this large craft had been seen by Kaz and her neighbor Dave on that night. And I'm just going to scroll over here. I just go down a bit. This is the entrance to the field. There's a gate in amongst those trees down there, but you can't see it here. But the gate is there, and that is where those two orbs, those barrel-shaped orbs, actually came over to Kaz and Dave after the other events had taken place, where the large pyramid craft had since either cloaked itself or disappeared. It was no longer visible to the human sight. But the green orb that was doing recon all over the area had gone northwest over to Lantrisand area, followed by planes and helicopters later on. But this area here is where the gate is. One of the barrel orbs was about here and was about 15-20 feet off the ground. And that was sort of like looking down at Kaz and Dave, while the green one, or the one that went from red to green, was more in the tree by the gate here. And that's the one that Kaz and Dave said let out this unusual green beam of light, as if to say it was scanning them somehow. That's what it felt like to them. They felt like they were being scanned. So that's the entrance for there. And if I just come back, you know, you walk down this field here, and then there's the first gate just along this line, and then this is the second field here, and this is the third field here where that interesting ball patch has been seen. Now I just want to show you something with the ball patch, because from an aerial shot, this is the most recent Google image of this area. You can see 2018. Now the ball patch is not very clearly visible from here. If anything, it's hard. You would be hard pressed to spot it if you didn't know it was there on the ground. But it's in this area, around this particular area here. And I'm just going to show you something with the historical imagery. This one here is 1945, so we come up. This is what it looked like in 2001. This is what it looked like in 2006. This is what it looked like in 2009. Now, this is the area here. There it is there, look. You can see 2013. Now we come up to 2016. This is the August of 2016. This is the area right here. You wouldn't have noticed it. The ball patch isn't so much a ball patch in that it's just nothing there. What we mean by the ball patches is that where this hand of lightning was seen by Kaz coming down close to the ground, because the craft's edge, this actually goes up on a hill here. There's a slight incline as you go up from the bottom here to the top. The craft had come very close to the ground, and it, like some sort of arcing, if you will, had let out this discharge of energy which landed in the area that we call the ball patch, because the gorse bushes that are there were singed and burned and irradiated in such a way. The grass, when I got there in October 2017, looked very lifeless to me. It didn't have that healthy green shimmer that would normally be associated with grass, because what gives grass or plants leaves its unique shyness is a chemical called chlorophyll. And if there's a distinct lack of it in the ground, then it's going to create this very dull, very bland kind of color. And that is what we see in the photographs and videos, which I will show you as we move further along. Now, another thing I also noticed is that some of the bushes that have tried to regrow in this area, some of the plants that have tried to regrow in the area that we call the ball patch, which is around here, around this area, doesn't seem to fare so well. I mean, it's actually starting to grow back a bit now, but from around October 2017 up until about October 2018, I noticed that these plants didn't really seem to fare so well. It's like that particular area didn't allow for the plants to germinate and to grow. So I just found that very strange. But this is an area where we got unusually high readings of EMF, this very isolated area. And of course, this is where Kaz, Dave, Donna and Steve, witnesses to the events that I'm going to describe, said lots of snow. Lots of snow had come down in this area. And this particular area here, only like this large section of the field, but specifically in this area. Sorry, I don't know why that keeps popping up. But just in this specific area here. I'm going to go back into the fields here. And this is the area of interest. This large field here with the ball patch. And of course this field here where the object was also seen because it traveled from this direction and up into this area here. That is the direction that Kaz and Dave described to us when we first met them. And this will become more significant as we move forward. So now we're going to go to another area, Smilog Wood, where something very unusual again happened. Something had gone crashing into the trees of this incredible area. So we're just going to follow now onto Google Map. Now, this is Smilog Wood. Seems Google Maps spells it a bit differently to me. I spell it S-M-I-L-O-G. This is S-M-A-L-O-G, but no matter. This is Smilog Wood. This is a very large, sizable area, as you can see. This is the Royal Glamorgan Hospital, this large complex here. Something else I want to show you. This is Lantriston Common. This large patch of green area around here. This is known as the Common or Lantriston Common. And why all this is significant is because if I just scroll back a bit, we come over here, look. There's the Pentyrch fields, look. I'm just going to go in slightly. You see, this green object that was acting like a recon, the large triangular pyramid-shaped craft is here now, and this green object is slightly above it, and it's moving around the place, looking all over, until eventually, as Kaz and Dave are standing on the gate over here, yeah, some planes come in over them, and this green object flashes at them, saying, you know, over here, and it then proceeds to go over in this direction, over to Lantriston area. So it's gone all the way around here. And this is significant because our third possible witness, calling themselves Mike Hembry on the South Wales Awakening forum, who gave a detailed description of what he saw, or what she saw. I don't know if it's a man or a woman. But they said this green object went in this direction, and this direction brings us over here, northwesterly, look. Lantriston Common, Royal Glamorgan Hospital, and Smilog Wood. And this is where we know the Royal Glamorgan Hospital had been shaken that night by an incredible force, an explosion, as many people heard, especially working in the Royal Glamorgan Hospital and people living in the surrounding neighbourhoods. Now, smoke filled this area, and military men were seen along these roads picking up pieces of scrap metal and piling it up ready to be collected. Now, about the same time, there was smoke seen coming from Smilog Wood, and helicopters were circling the area along with military planes. This was all around sometime after 4 AM in the morning. I think if the seismic readings that I got are an indication of the time this was all taking place, you're talking 4:21 AM. When you look at Smilog Wood, the area that Kaz, Dave, Steve and Donna went to at sunrise when they were looking for an impact site because 2 explosions had been heard. One was around this area and another one was in the Smilog Woods area here. Kaz, Dave, Steve, Donna, witnesses to these events, went into Smilog Wood and started to walk through the area looking for signs of damage or impact of some kind, and eventually they stumbled on broken canopies broken canopies of trees. And interestingly enough, when they followed it, they came into an area which is just about here. This is the impact area here. I'm just going to adjust the map. The reason why I know this is because looking at the layout of the ground, the videos and pictures that were given to us, there is a bend in the road you must come around before you get to a bike trail, which is here, look. You can walk up this area, but people who ride on their mountain bikes, who like to ride the trails, because there are mountain bike trails in this area, which people come down very fast and do some pretty insane jumps at the same time. But this is the area here. And when Kaz, Dave, Donna and Steve got into this area, what they found was that 5 or 6 very large trees had been snapped at mid-trunk with some external force pushed upon them. At the same time, they discovered that some of the trees had greyish pink markings on them, as if an indication of some kind of burn. And of course, there were trees laid out down here, snapped at mid-trunk, or just below mid-trunk, and given the spread of the material from within the trunk itself, this wasn't just like a slight snapping. This wasn't like a slight snapping. This was an explosive force. It had come in with some velocity. And the following day, they came up to this area again with video cameras, and yeah, they managed to record some of the strange snow that had actually been witnessed in the fields of Pentyrch. And when I checked the weather records for the Lantricent area that day, there were no conditions available for snow to actually form. So what was this unusual snow that we were seeing, as they described as being marshmallowy and soft and sort of spongy to the touch? Sometime in June of 2017, the Council or the Forestry Commission had made a decision that they were going to clear this area. I'm just going to go back to our historical view map. This is what the area looked like during that time. Nothing really there. If we come forward, as you can see, there is Smilog Woods, all lush and green and planted. There's the trees that have been planted freshly alongside the road there. Again, trees all there, bike trails. Trees all there again, bike trails. This is 2013. Just keep going forward. 2016, look, you can see trees are still there. And if the 2016, if the 8 is indication of month, that's the August of 2016. And as you can see by the June 2018, this area has all been felled. And significant portions of it over here as well. But it's this area here that is of interest to us, because I contacted the Forestry Commission asking them why indeed they had put down the trees in this particular area, and their response was larch disease, or Phytophthora thermorum. I think I'm saying that right. But basically it's a disease that affects trees, and it's so contagious that the entire area must be felled and cleansed. No trees can grow there for at least 3 years, no plantations of any kind, but yet within a matter of weeks or months they'd already replanted the area and the trees are growing as we speak. So whatever reason they did this for, it may have just been simple enough reasons, but the reason they gave me was a lie. And what's interesting is that this area here, the trees that were affected by whatever crashed into that area, those trees and leaves don't grow anymore. That area is dead. This area is absolutely dead. what I just want to do now is look at the geology of the area, and how I'm going to be able to do this is if I go to the British Geological Survey again, and you can see the link that I'm using up there, look. Again, I will make links all available when I post this video in the information section underneath. But you can see the link here, and if I just click on this, you'll see that it'll take us to a map of Britain. And if I just go down to the Welsh area, okay. So I'm just going to lower the transparency here just to see the landmarks more clearly. Now this is going to tell me what exactly is in the bedrock of all the areas of Pentyrch. And the reason I'm just doing that is because I want to show you that there's nothing really unusual about the place. It's all very much the same materials. Some materials could give off some unusual high EMF readings if there was any there, but I've had a look at this myself, but I'm just going to show it to you so that you can see for your own benefit that all bases have been covered. So I just need to find Pentyrch. Here you can see, look. I just want to show that what's actually in the ground here, the materials that are in the ground, the bedrock of these fields, is pretty basic stuff that you find just about everywhere else. I was wondering if there was any kind of strange materials in this area that might explain why we got such a strange line of readings in the actual ground of the Pentyrch fields where this large triangular craft had been seen. But originally when I done this, I didn't find anything. I'm just going to do it for your benefit now. So if I just bring up the transparency here, you can see we have like green areas, grey areas, so like brownish areas. These are all various deposits or large deposits of natural materials that are in the bedrock, make up the geology of the ground here. You know, if I just click on, say, this middle section here, you can see that the actual materials is just mudstone, sandstone, and conglomerate rock, which is really standard basic material for this entire area. As I'll come down, look, I'll look on the more greener, larger section here. You can see dolomitized limestone and dolomite. You can see by here that it's pretty much the same thing, dolomitized limestone and dolomite. Just come to this area here, look. Limestone again, which is pretty basic for this area. There is a quarry there, actually. There is actually a quarry, an abandoned quarry right now, but there is talk that it may be opening again. But it's just mudstone and conglomerate rock again. I mean, if I just come down to this red patch again here, look, you can see again, you know, mudstone and conglomerate rock. If I just click on this one here, look, again, limestone formations. Click on this yellow one. Mudstone, sandstone, and conglomerate rock. So, I mean, there's nothing really unusual about what is actually in the ground here. It's all pretty much the same thing. Mudstone, sandstone, and conglomerate. There's a little section here I'm going to click on. Again, limestone, sedimentary bedrock. I mean, this is the field. Right here, look. I mean, this is the field. Right here, look. This is roughly the area where we were scanning, and these were the surrounding fields. And, I mean, you know, I'll bring the grid back up again. Look, I mean, there's this line here, this yellowish line. Mudstone and sandstone and conglomerate rock again. So there's nothing really unusual about this place. And if you look at the magnetic surveys and the geological surveys, there's nothing natural that would explain any of the things that we found with the EMF study that we did of these fields. So I'm very much convinced that what we saw with our own eyes doing the EMF study was actually something more artificial. So I think this will prove that to you. I think it serves as very solid evidence that this is artificial EMF signals that we're getting, not natural as we would sometimes expect it to be. So just to cover Smilog wood, and our EMF study of this place. I'm just going to again look at the geology and magnetic surveys of the area just to see that there really isn't anything here that indicates a natural phenomena of high EMF that would be detected by just about any kind of equipment actually. So this is the Royal Glamorgan Hospital here. This area here is Smilog, and over here of course is Lantris and Common. So I'm just going to raise the transparency again, make it more visible, and I'm just going to come into the area over here, look, and as you can see, you know what's in the bedrock, you know, the surveys that were done by the British Geological Survey. You know, you have sandstone in this greener patch here. Come up a little bit, you know, we have sandstone again, sandstone and sedimentary bedrock. I mean, there's nothing really here at all, and I checked all this before any of this was being done. You know, this website is very useful because it puts it all in one place for you. But you know, this long grey one here, you know, mudstone, siltstone, and sandstone, I don't see anything that would indicate to me that there's a natural reason for the EMF that we got in that particular area of Smilog Wood. And especially as we scanned the entire surrounding area, it's got nothing. And then we came into that area of the impact site and the path that cars had taken to get there, that those were the really interesting areas where we got something. Excuse me. Those were the really interesting areas where we got something. You know, if I look at the Royal Glamorgan area, again, sandstone, no Lantris and Common, sandstone and sedimentary bedrock. So there's nothing really here that indicates any unusual natural EMF readings. Whatever we detected was something more artificial and recent. Now, when we went into those areas, of course, we did everything we possibly could to make sure that we weren't getting any false readings. We took a metal detector with us. We looked for power lines. We did many things. We scanned the fields a number of times, surrounding fields and inside, so that we also got base readings. But some of the other things I decided to do was to see if there was any kind of survey or data that could help me understand exactly what it was we were reading in those areas, just to make sure we'd cover all bases. And when I came to the British Geological Survey website, I found this very interesting link here, which is just up there, look. And it's to do with Gravity and Magnetic Survey Data Overview. Now, I'm not going to go into the various scientific analysis of what British Geological Survey team get up to, but what I am interested in is these images down by here. This is a Great Britain aeromagnetic survey data, and what you want to understand is what these colors actually represent. Now, I'm just going to bring it up. You can see the outline of Britain, look, and you can see that Wales is down here. You'll notice that various colors are shining, look, reds, your blues, your yellows and greens. And if you want to understand what they mean, you just come down to the bottom here, the magnetic anomaly. The colored shaded relief image shows the magnetic anomaly field as a pseudo-topography illuminated from the north. Now, red shows magnetic highs and blue show magnetic lows. So obviously the red colors, or more closer to the reds, would be where you have high magnetic readings from a large scale of the country. And of course, the blue ones would also mean much lower readings in those particular areas. Now, I'm just going to go over to another website. This again is the Geo Index onshore by the British Geological Survey. And it took me a while to find this actually, but what's really good about all this is that if I just come over here, look, you can see all the available layers for things that the British Geological Survey team and those who work with them do. You can see superficial deposits, fault lines. You can see well, just about anything really. Your groundwater vulnerability. You can see fossil specimens. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can add to this. But what I'm really interested in, what I've already got here, is of course magnetic anomalies, because what I was scanning for in the fields of Pentyrch was electromagnetic radiation. Now I'm just going to go down into the map a bit, because we need to find Pentyrch, which is just here, and I'm just going to go in a little further. Just bear with me. And okay, so this is the field where this sighting actually took place. You can see Pentyrch Road there. You can see Pentyrch area here, and this is the actual area where the sighting actually took place. As you saw in the image previously, I just click on that. You can see the magnetic readings that were done for this area. And you can see there's yellows here. Swansea look is quite high, quite red. Then as we go back to Cardiff, we have a fairly red appearance. If I just show you on the legend, look, see? Band 1 red, according to the British Geological Survey notes, is quite high. Band 2 is green, which is somewhere in the between. And of course, if it's blue, then it's pretty low. Now, just to go over to the Geo Index onshore by the British Geological Survey, you can see that the magnetic anomaly dataset is active, but it doesn't cover this scale close up. I have to go out a bit further. You can see, look, there's Smilog, there's the Royal Glamorgan Hospital, this area of Lantriston Common, look. So I'm just going to keep my mouse in this area as I zoom out until the data set becomes active. So you can see the colouring of the magnetic surveys, what band they're in and everything. Should be about here. Right, there we go. Just going a bit further, sorry. Okay, so my mouse cursor has not moved. That's the Lantriston Common area, Smilog Wood, Royal Glamorgan Hospital. As you can see, it's more into the yellow rather than the red area. Pentyrch, more around here into the red areas. But pretty basic levels detected by those who do these studies. And I mean, you can see over here, this is a really rich red. You know, you're moving into Swindon, Andover area, which is east. I mean, the question needs to be asked is, if what we were scanning in the fields was something to do with the area in question, you know, and Pentyrch is around here, why is it then only in those two particular fields where the craft had been seen, moving from one field to the other, to where it got to the tip of the hill by Pentyrch Road, and then left that unusual ball patch area where Kaz seen a hand of lightning coming out? Why is it only in those two fields that we get those readings? Why only those two fields? I mean, we scanned the surrounding fields. We didn't find anything. There's nothing localized or focal. You know, there's nothing unusual about this area, really, that would indicate to me that the readings we got were indications of anything that were natural. So, you know, I think we've been very thorough here, you know, looking at natural things to do with our EMF study. Looking at previous UFO cases and speaking with people who have done stuff like this, it became clear that our course of action was to actually scan all these fields with an EMF detector just to see if we could pick up any high unusual EMF readings. And on the first 2-3 occasions that we went into these fields, it was just an occasional look around. You know, we just wanted to see if any of these other fields, the surrounding fields, look, had any kind of unusual readings in them. And we didn't find anything, nothing at all. It was only when we got into the area here, this large field and this field here, where we were starting to pick up multiple readings of signals. And every time that we had the EMF meter, we were very careful to make sure that we didn't have anything electronic on us, or that electronics were not affecting the actual EMF meter itself. And as I've already stated in a previous video, of course we didn't know what the frequency strength was, but we were able to get the electromagnetic readouts, which became very useful to us. Now, upon scanning all these fields and actually figuring out what our baseline reading was, a baseline reading is quite simply what is the average for this area, this area, this area that's not affected, as in opposed to the area that is affected, which is our area of interest where the craft was seen. We established that it had to be anywhere between 0.05 microtesla and 0.1, with the occasional meter going up to 0.2, but nothing more than that. It's only when we got into this area here, really, that we were getting many readings, multiple readings, and in some cases where the ball patch is here, you didn't have to move too far. There were readings just going up all over the place. Okay, so now we come to one of the pieces of equipment that we used when we did our EMF study in the fields of Pentyrch. Now, this is the electrical meter. It's a very basic model. There's not too much about it that is fancy. Its actual name is KK Moon GM3120 model, and it's made and designed by a company called Pentyrch. Now, I will say, granted, it's not the most expensive, it's not the most elaborate piece of kit for measuring signals in a field. One of the problems that this device has right off the bat is that it does not measure signals. It will not tell you the frequencies on the electromagnetic spectrum of what it is you're actually getting. Now, this ranges from hertz to megahertz to gigahertz and so on. But if we go down to the actual area where this thing tests its bandwidth, that's what it is. The bandwidth is the frequency range on the electromagnetic spectrum. You can see here it is 5 hertz to 3500 megahertz. Now, that is not a lot, but that is within the radio to microwave level range. That's about the bandwidth that it will scan in. And this is going to become significant as I go through the video some more and explain why I do believe that these particular signals in those fields were of the microwave level. Now, I'll just bring it back to the top. Again, operates within a temperature of 0 degrees to 50 degrees. It's not particularly heavy. It weighs about 6 ounces. It fits in the palm of your hand. It's a very simple and easy device to use. And as you can see, the E field is the electrical field, and the H field is magnetic strength, which is measured in microtesla there, or that UT symbol right next to it.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's video. Today I'm going to be explaining electromagnets and how they work. Electromagnets are important for understanding a better understanding of motors, and so first I'm going to explain how these work, and then we can get into more complicated motors. So an electromagnet is basically just a magnet that is created by using a current. So if you haven't watched my video on magnets, you may want to check that out first, and I'll include a link in the description. Now, the magnetic field is created, and it's all based on the right-hand current rule. So this says that if you point your thumb in the direction of current flow on a wire, as we've drawn here, your fingers will show you the direction of the magnetic field. So you can see the magnetic field is rotating around the wire as you pass a current through it. So what we've got here is a battery connected to a coiled wire. And this coiled wire spinning around, so kind of going, if you can just follow with me, back into the board and then coming out. So you've got the flow from positive to negative of the current passing through this. And so this creates these magnetic fields around this wire. Okay, so you can see that if you've got your current going in this direction, your magnetic field is going to wrap around. Then as it goes down, it's going to wrap around the other direction. And then as it comes back up, it's going to continue to wrap around in that direction. Okay, so if you look at each of these, it's kind of the easiest way to visualize it is to look at the ends of this. So up at the top here, you've got your wire going into the board, so your current is going to be flowing like so. Now over here you've got the same thing happening, so you've got your current flowing, or your magnetic field in that direction. Okay, so on the bottom end, since you're going to be coming this direction, you're going to have your magnetic field rotating around in this direction. So as you can see, you're kind of lining this up. And so what this does is you're creating a larger magnetic field. And so it's all going to come and kind of follow these smaller magnetic fields. So the entire inside, if you can imagine, of this wire coil is going to have all these arrows pointed in the opposite direction. So the magnetic field is going to travel through here to the North Pole, which is going to be on this side, and then pass around the outside of the magnetic coil and come to the South Pole. So a basic overview of what this looks like is you're going to have this item in the center, this axle that you're going to wrap the wire around. And so when you wrap that wire around it, you're basically creating a permanent magnet. Now it's not a permanent magnet because it requires a current to create it, but it basically does essentially the same thing. So you've got the North and South Pole, just like in a permanent magnet you have your North and South Pole. Now you can increase the current or increase the number of wire coils, the number of times you rotate that wire around, and you can increase the strength of that magnet. So hopefully that gives you a better understanding of how electromagnetics work. Feel free to leave any questions or comments below.
Now there are variations of this model. There are variations of different types. And I've got some videos here which I'm going to show you. These two models here, I'm going to see if I can increase the resolution of this video. But what you see is the Pentyrch model, and you see the KK Moon model, and you can see how they work side by side when they're measuring the electrical and magnetic fields from a computer screen. And as you can see, look, this is the magnetic readings here. They're very similar. This is the computer screen, look, the keyboard. The numbers on top are the electrical fields. Seems that the KK Moon is a little more, shall we say, refined in its sensory. It seems to be more sensitive to picking up electrical and magnetic fields as opposed to the Pentyrch model here. And that was quite something good to learn, because it showed that the one that we used, out of all the variations of it, the GM3120, was the actual KK Moon was the best one. And I'm going to show you some more by here. Now this one doesn't have any particular label on it. This one seems to be a Chinese variant that you can get. It's usually around the Russian or Chinese markets. And as you can see, KK Moon, look, measuring quite a high magnetic field there, as opposed to its nameless, faceless device, I'll just say. As you can see, it doesn't register so well. Okay, our device may be cheap and affordable, but out of all the models and variations you can get, this is the one that actually does work the best. For those of you who like to tear down and break apart what the actual device is and how it works, I mean, there is a very good review here by a person named Kerry D. Wong, who has a list of various components and what these components do. And you know, he says it's a very decent model. It will do what you want it to do. And there is a video of it here. Look, teardown of GM3120 electromagnetic radiation tester. So basically, you know, it's a basic model, I will admit. But to try and afford a very expensive one, to try and get your hands on a very expensive one, you're talking something like many hundreds, if not thousands of pounds, and I just simply do not have the money, or that anyone who would be willing to lend me that kind of equipment because that would tell me what the frequency strength is, what sort of bandwidth it's on, and all other kinds of things. Just to go over the customer reviews, I mean, there's been 96 customer reviews. Overall rating is 3.4 out of 5 stars, so that's pretty good. It's pretty good considering the price. 41% of those people who rated on this device, so just under half, gave it a 5-star. 18% gave it a 4-star. And of course, there is a certain group of people who are not very happy with it, but for the price, I think you know, you can be very, very happy with this product. And you know, there's some 5-star reviews there. Obviously, someone giving it a 1-star review. Don't seem to be very happy with the battery fitting in there, but I mean, this device will work indoors and out. As you can see, the special features here, look. This meter can test electric field radiation and magnetic field emission to reach the optimal test result. It is used to test and learn electromagnetic radiation situation indoor and outdoor. And it does have a CE certificate as well. So this thing does work. It works indoors and out. Now, we wanted to make sure that we didn't get any false readings. So when we were scanning these areas, when we were actually going through them, we took a metal detector with us, and we tried to make sure that there was nothing under the ground or nothing that would give a false positive, a false reading. And every time we found a signal, scanned it with the metal detector, we got nothing. You know, you'd move to another area, you'd get a signal, and you got nothing. When we did get a signal, our meter would beep at 0.4 microtesla. That is the strength that the signal, or should I say, strength of the electromagnetic radiation needed to be in order for us to mark it. Now, of course, as I've already said, we don't know the frequency strength. Our electromagnetic radiation detector was capable of doing 5 Hz to 3500 megahertz, which is in radio and microwave frequency range. So, of course, we couldn't isolate it, and I've already conceded this point many a time, but it doesn't change the fact that there were unusually strange readings in these two fields, and only these two fields. You know, we scanned all around this area and didn't get anything. The only other location that got anything at all in this particular area of Pentyrch was, would you believe it, is by the entrance, the gate, where these two barrel-shaped objects actually came over to Kaz and Dave. Now, as I said, the one was about here. I say 15 to 20 feet, it may have been 25 to 30 feet, I don't know, but he was around here, and he was looking down at the gate here. He stayed red, and that is all he stayed. The other one came into the tree line here, and as he said, went from red to green, with Kaz standing on the gate and her neighbour Dave standing a bit behind her, looking on. Now, we got signals, EMF signals, from this area here and this area here, which measured sometimes between 0.5 microtesla, sometimes going up as high as 1 microtesla. And as I said, we scanned all this area and found nothing, only in these areas here. Now, I go back a bit, it doesn't show, but there is an electrical wire that runs along this area here. When we were walking under it, yes, we did get signals, and the signals were far higher than what we were getting from the open fields. You know, when we went under some very high electrical source, like these electrical wires that run along here, the meter was going up as high as, you know, 2, 3, 4 microtesla, sometimes as high as 5. So that was, as you know, a false positive. That was not attributed to anything UFO related. That was something that is artificial, man-made, put there by us. And we excluded that. But what that did, it served as a very good test to show that the meter was working outdoors when it got near an electrical source. This happened many a time when we were going through these fields. So, as far as I'm concerned, that does attribute to a successful field test. So, that's that. Once we did our scans of the entire area, and we determined that whatever was causing the signals in these fields, or this point of interest where the craft had been seen, it was time to mark it out. It was time for us to actually go in there and really do a thorough scan now of the actual field. And this here is the point that I designate field 2. And this one is designated field 3. And the field with the entrance, the gate entrance to this area, I designate field 1. Now, what we did, and it took us a long time to get this done, is that we got some sticks and ribbons so we could mark out where we got our readings. Anything above 0.4 where the meter would be marked. And we did what we call a grid reference search. This is quite simply, right, where you start off in an area and you move up in a grid-like fashion. Now this field here was divided into 2, and this field here was divided into 2 also. And what we did is that we started scanning from here. We went along until we got to our area, moved up a little bit, went all the way across again, and of course we continued to move up and across, up and across, up and across, up and across. And every time we got a signal, you know, a marker would be placed. And we did the same for this area, you know, moving across and down, or moving up and across like that. And where we got our readings, where the meter would go off above 0.4 microtesla, we marked it, we logged it, so we knew exactly what we got. And of course, we then continued the trend into this field here. This got divided into 2, and we went across like this, continued all the way up, and then of course we did the same thing back down. And it was decided that we were going to look inside the ball patch area a little bit more, because the signals were the strongest at this point. They were the strongest at that point there. That is where we got the highest cluster of signals. We found other signals that were clustered, and I'm going to show you now on this image here. When our results came in, this is what we had. Now, this is the first field, the second field, and the third field is but there. There's Pentyrch Road again. I'm just going to come down to here, because I'm trying to show you that there is a key index to this map. Tells you what everything is. You can see here the sort of brown golden color. That's the gate. That's the gate right there. That is the entrance. Now, these 2 dots represent where the barrel-shaped orbs were that looked down at Kaz and Dave. And these are their readings. On that day, this is what we got. We got a 0.5 and a 0.6. Now, we got significantly higher than that before. We got things like 0.8, as high as 1. But for the day when we actually did our test, these were the results we got. And of course, when we scanned all around these areas, nothing at all. But this is where the real interest begins, because as you can see already, we have several colors. Look, we have a red area, a yellowish line, we have a white dotted area, sort of violet, lavender colored dotted area, and a grey colored area also. And this is what it means. You know, we have a cluster here of signals, and this is what we got. We got things like 0.52, 0.42, 0.44, 0.49, 0.57. That's magnetic readings. Those are magnetic readings. Our EMF detector logged the magnetic readings as follows. And as you can see, we found another cluster here towards sort of the middle, or to the right middle of the actual field. And some of the readings we got there again, 0.45, 0.47, 0.61, 0.58, 0.51, you know, so pretty unusual, very unusual indeed. And if we go over to the yellow line, because this follows into the second and third fields, well, you know, just take a look. Take a look. You know, we got things like 0.47, we got some that go up to 0.59. You know, we've got some down here, look, 0.63. You know, some of these were going up as high as 1 also for other times we were there, but on the day, you know, these are what we were getting. Here's the most unusual thing. Here's the most unusual thing. I mean, look at this. We've got a cluster here, yes. We've got a cluster here and a cluster here. This is the ball patch area. Remember what I said? The ball patch area was getting us too many readings. I couldn't possibly log them all. 0.58, you know, we had 0.61, you know, 0.77, you know, and some of them are very consistent. Look, 0.66, 0.67, you know, and this was just in a very small isolated area. But look at this. Look at the length of this. Look, this line was discovered when we were doing our grid reference search and marking out the area. It moved across the second field, came up into the third field, and did a quick left turn, which led us, as we were doing the grid reference search, into the ball patch area. And that, when I found it, when we discovered it, I should say, yeah, for me, that was excellent proof of an artificial EMF source which had somehow been able to stay in these fields for at least nearly 2 years, because this was 21 months after the actual event had taken place, and by that point the signals were starting to fade, but they were there strong enough for our electrical magnetic radiation detector to find this. This line is exactly the path, or more or less exactly the path, that Kaz and Dave said this craft took when it moved from this field into this field until it got to this point where the ball patch is, where that electrical discharge, which was a white-orange in color, came out. And as you can see, all these readings, all the physical signs with the grass and the bushes, the strange snow, I mean, it's pretty significant evidence for me that something highly unusual happened in these fields. And if Kaz and Dave are to be believed, and I say they are, then it was indeed some craft of unknown origin. This is evidence which we found, which we were able to gather, and we were very careful and meticulous and methodical in how we were able to attain it. These ribbons represent, along with the sticks, represent where we got a lot of markings. As you can see, I'm pretty much walking in a straight line through a boggy field, and when I get past this area now, I think you'll find that you will see a lot of ribbons in a straight line which go well into the other field, and we think we understand the reason for that. Right? This is a stream, as you can see, leads pretty much to the next field. Now I want you to look at that already. Look, there's a lot of sticks and lines over there. Just get up here. That's it. Yeah, this field work is hard now. See, look. Alright, here we go. Just coming into the second field now. This is retracing the steps back to the first moments when our witnesses did actually see this craft fully in the field. If you look here now, you'll see a lot of ribbons tracing out an area. Why are you getting such high readings now? I mean, we're getting 6s and 6.5s, 5.8s and all that, but now you're getting a 0.75. Just going to walk to this area. It's a little bit difficult to get through here because there's a lot of bushes and long grass and weeds and stuff, but you can see I'm just walking this area. It's pretty much in a straight line. Here we got readings around 0.45, high as 6.6. islands mark out where we got those hits. Now if you look back, I can zoom into the area where one, more or less there. See that sort of stump and wooden fence post there? Come back now. We're onto that tree. This is the line. This would have been the area where the craft of lights, orange lights, forming a triangle with a curved edge, was pretty much standing upright. And as it seems to have gone in the other field, it seems to have tilted more flat. And that's why in the next field we get a lot more surface area of readings, when this field here, innit Mike, we get, I mean the field over there, innit, we get a lot of wide areas, but in this area we're getting very much a straight line. So that does prove that, you know, wherever it was, it's tilting this area. Well, stood up right here and tilted over into the next field. Yeah, we were getting like 0.45, 5, somewhere near a 6, but then, you know, you go with the next field and it seems to be a little more intense. I'm guessing the reason for that is there's more surface area it's touching over there, like, innit? Okay, so pretty much reaching the end here. It's coming around a curve a bit. It's coming around a curve a bit. But as you can see, these ribbons are very bunched together. It would seem that this craft made it all the way to the public footpath, more or less. That's the last ribbon there. I just pan it back. You can see it goes into that field, it goes all the way up to the trees, past the trees where you can see the sheep in the second field. It goes all the way around there, and maybe just through the trees there where that patch is. You can see the white dots, that's where the sheep are. That's pretty much the patch area, so it's enormous. There was definitely something here. It was definitely not your everyday military or civil craft, you know, private plane or whatever. It definitely used something that gave off high EMF readings, isn't it?
Right, I'm just going to show you something that is very interesting to do with the Pentyrch fields and the area by the gate. When we were scanning these fields, and there's Mac Maunder there with the EMF meter, something that we noticed in the area where the one barrel that stayed red, sort of 15, 20, 25 feet above the ground, that was sort of looking down while the other barrel shaped orb was in the trees by Kaz. This bush here, just in front of you, there's something unusual about it. While all the other bushes lined up along this area seem to grow leaves, this particular area does not. I mean, you know, over there it's green, and you can see some more in the background, look. But as you get into the area where the signals were coming from, and this is where this red barrel-shaped orb would have been, this is the spot that Kaz and Dave identified to us, and where we found our signal, many signals, a number of times we scanned the area. You can see as you get into this area, look, it starts to go more yellow and brown. You know, I think some of the leaves are even looking a little unhealthy there. This is around November 2017, and this is early 2019. This is the same bush by the same field, and okay, they're starting to show something now, but look at the leaves again that grow next to it. You know, still brown, still orange. I mean, this being affected by something, it looks like. You can see You know, it's all green over there, but as it gets into this area, it starts to show some kind of something that's affecting it. And maybe where the gate is here, look, this is where Kaz was standing. She said she looked up and saw the barrel was around here, and it shone this green beam down at them. Right? Now, this is the tree, look. You can see, you know, the rest of it's green, looks very healthy. As you get over here, the leaves are an entirely different color, and it's isolated to this area. You know, I'm just wondering, I'm not saying this is true, I'm just wondering if that is another sign of EMF contamination of some kind, which affects this tree and the leaves on it, look. And just to show you the opposite side of the bush, you know, again, look, you know, this is the closest to this bush here, look, right? And these leaves here are brown, somewhat a bit dead, I would say, you know. But then as you go back to the other side, look, okay, they're a bit yellow, but there's more green on them, and they seem to get more healthy as they go down towards there, look, as you can see here. So I'm just wondering, you know, is this evidence of EMF damage to the local plant life? The trees, the bushes, the grass? I mean, I just find that interesting. That's something that else ties in with what the witnesses saw, what we found with our electromagnetic radiation detector when we did our EMF study. I mean, you know, this is not me making this up. You know, I'm just going by what I've read about other case histories and things like that. So I'll let you decide, but I just find that very interesting. So now we come to the EMF study of this area. And very similar to what we did in the fields of Pentyrch, as you can see, this is a lot harder to actually do because there are trees and thick bushes in the way. But I went into this area again with Swansea UFO Network and Kaz, Dave, Donna, Steve, and others who came along with us at other times, and we just did scans all around the area just to make sure that we were not getting anything that could give us a false positive. I also looked at the Geological survey, magnetic survey readings, and there's no hotspots. It's all the same. It's all the same materials. It's all the same. It's all the same levels of readings magnetically. So once we'd done our preliminary scans, our base reading for this one was very similar to what we had in Pentyrch. 0.1 microtesla was the base reading. Now, finally, it was decided that we needed to scan these areas because these were the areas where we were getting the signals. This area here on the road, and just a bit further up around here, the impact area itself, and this area here. Nothing else gave us any signals. And we determined that there were no power lines or cables or electrical wires or electrical stations or things in our pocket like mobile phones or cameras that could have been giving it off. Whatever was causing the signals, because this is the area we were getting signals, and the impact area we were getting signals, and the road area we were getting signals. So those became our area of interest, and that is where the grid reference search takes place. Now, as again, I started from about here. I worked my way across, came up, and across, came over and across. there was no need to divide this into sections because it was a pretty small area to work with. But as we came across, I marked out all the areas where we got signals. Now I'm just going to turn the image this way, because what I'm going to show you now will help you understand what I've done here. Now this is what we came up with. There's the road. There's the now cut down trees. This is the impact area right here, and this is the road which leads up to this area. Now these blue lines I've drawn in because these bike trails come into this area here before they then make their way further down the mountain. Now this is interesting because, as you can see, we've got readings here, look. You can see by the key index map, we've got readings here, look, which go down this road and end up in this path area by here. Now, I found that one very strange because while all the others are sort of like in the trees and in the impact sites, this one is actually on a road. Now, if the military had indeed found something here, and it was maybe, I say maybe on this, that it could have been this green object that went northwest. I didn't see it, so I can't say that for 100% certainty. But then what else is going to be giving off strange electrical magnetic radiation readings which we can detect and for which we can eliminate all other possibilities? I reckon, and I do speculate a bit here, but I think it's a very good one, and I'll explain why later. But I reckon what's happened here is that they've stacked a lot of what they found here on this particular road here, ready for someone to either put it on a truck or to put it on a helicopter, because Dave, whose house is able to overlook the area of St. Athan, the St. Athan base, he said that on a few trips he saw Chinooks going back and forth, followed by Apache helicopters, back and forth to St. Athan, and then making their way over to Lantrisson. And this is confirmed on logs. People who are plane spotters, they log and catalogue the tail number and time of what comes in and out of the base, because that's what they like to do. It's their hobby. But it's useful information because it corroborates what Dave saw, and it corroborates it with actual recorded information. But that's what I think is going on with the pink line markers here. Now, the more important ones. When I was scanning the areas where the trees had been felled, I found a couple of readings here. Look, 0.49, 0.47, 0.46, very consistent. It's only when I got into the area around here, after doing my grid reference search, that I found this weird line. Now this line goes into the impact site where all the broken trees are, and we found, you know, a cluster of signals again. Something that came closest to the ground here, possibly the green barrel object that was acting as like a recon, I was seen heading off in a northwesterly direction. I believe was shot down by an Apache helicopter, because an Apache helicopter was forced to make an emergency landing at Cardiff International Airport sometime around 4:34 a.m., which is just 12 minutes prior to a large explosion being heard by Lantrisson Common, felt by people working at the Royal Glamorgan Hospital, and just about the time all of Smilog Woods was closed off, and roads and paths leading into the area, for which the South Wales Police, unfortunately, are not very forthcoming with paperwork. What I'm thinking here is, you know, we've got two areas, Pentyrch Fields and Smilog Wood, 5 miles apart, not affected by any of the other things, but connected to each other because of what the witnesses saw and what the military's actions were doing that night, and then what we found when we came along in October 2017 into the new year of 2018. We discovered this EMF evidence, and using all the techniques and methods that I've described to you, you know, this evidence always leaves these strange, unusual readings and causes strange damage to plants and trees, and even affects people in unusual ways. So you know, people can criticize me for not using the most expensive of toys when it comes to the EMF. But I just think that's nitpicking. I think that's somebody just looking for a little argument, but then stretching it out to become the entire basis of their debunking efforts. And I have seen people do this, but they fail to explain all these things that I show you here. And that to me just adds more credibility and makes what I have found with the evidence that's been presented more relevant now than it ever has been, because as I explain it and as I show it to you, you know, something unusual happened in these two areas that has no rational explanation, and all possible causes have been eliminated. And as the saying goes, that once you've eliminated all possible causes, you know, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, has to be the truth. I mean, you know, make of it what you want, but, you know, this is a real event that did take place, and all evidence for it is available to anyone who wants to look, which, you know, I'm making these videos available free to you. I do not want any profit from them. All I want is for people to own the information, to have the truth, and be confident about it when you speak to other people, because obviously there are some people out there who are not educated enough on the subject, and there are just some who are very ignorant towards you. So use this video, use what I've shown you. So that's all for me. Thank you very much. Now, when we investigated the impact area in Smilog where all the broken trees were, one thing I tried to confirm is exactly what time these trees may have actually been snapped. And I did manage to speak to a witness. His name is Oscar Green. He's a witness to the night's events involving the E3 Sentry plane. He confirmed the sighting of that. And he also confirmed many other things, such as helicopters and planes. And he also confirmed to me that the area where the trees are, him and his friends are mountain bike riders, and they used to set up ramps there using pallets to do big jumps over the road. And he said that about 2 days prior to the 26th of February 2016, the trail was fine, the pallets and the trees were fine, but when he went up there on the 27th, the day after the 26th of February, the trees had been broken, but his ramp, the ramp that he and his friends used on their mountain bikes, had been smashed to pieces. It was just, well, it was destroyed, it basically said. And I asked him, you know, is that true? Is it true that 2 days prior to the 26th of February 2016, was the trees and the ramp fine? And he said yes. And he said that on the 27th, yes, the ramp had been smashed. It was broken in many pieces, and the trees were broken as well. And I just asked him, about the ramp anyway. What do you think happened? And he thought the council had done it, which is fine, He doesn't know what's going on, but it just shows that something indeed happened there within that time frame. Now, something else I wanted to double check was to see that people who do ride on mountain bikes, especially down trails or out in the countryside, like to use GoPro, record videos as they travel. And I got a series of files here, and I went on YouTube and I tried to use the upload date as a means of figuring out when this video was shot, unless otherwise stated by the video itself that this is when they recorded these videos. And I'm just going to show you here. This is someone, look, who went round this trail on the 4th of December 2016. And if I go forward, you can see, look, there's the road which you come up. This is the bike trail that leads down into this area. You can see, look, 4th of December. The trees which were felled later on are still standing around this time. Just go forward. This This is the area, look. These bend. These trees that are bent, look. They were already like that. They were already like that, and it's a condition that happens to these trees if they get planted too close together. But you can see, look, over here, you know, the broken tree, another broken tree. This area on the 4th of December obviously was broken. So we just continue to look at some more areas, look. To look at some more areas. And again, you know, I was fortunate enough to find these videos because I spent 2 weeks doing this, looking at various videos to see if anyone could give me an indication of when these trees were fine as to when they were broken. Now, Oscar Green confirms it for me, but it's always nice to have some visual evidence, so I'll just go into another one. So look, if you look at the 7th of December, this is the upload date. It's 2014, and as you can see, the trees are all standing, they're all fine. That's the exit, or you could say entrance, to the area of the bike trails. This is the trees that would be damaged, you know, some years later. But, you know, it just shows that I was able to investigate this particular thing. I mean, this is someone who was up there on the 15th of November. That's the date that was given for this upload. You can see, look, you know, the trees are still bent, but there's the broken areas. But there, look, you can see the trees themselves are not in the best of shape. I mean, everything else is nice and green around this area, but look around here. You know, still not growing to this day. You know, there's some of the broken trees down here, look. Now, if I take you to, say, this one here, 23rd of March 2016. That's the upload date. The video may have been sooner, but I can only go by what dates I'm able to discover. There's the entrance or the exit to the bike trail there. There's the trees coming up. Can't really tell from this position, but you can see one or two of the trees have been snapped. This is just in March, you know, a month after the actual event, just about a month. So that's good to see that, you know, we have consistency in the videos. But I'm just going to go to, this is the closest date I could find for the actual thing. This one was published on the 21st of February 2016, and you can see there, look, the trees at this point are all standing. You can see the ones with the bends in them. The trees are all very much standing. This is the area here, you know, that those trees got snapped on. And again, you know, this is a different angle. That's the impact area there, look, right there. The interesting thing is that no explanation I've been able to find as to why those trees were snapped, except for the night in question when the explosions were heard and things were seen coming in and out of Smilog Woods, such as military helicopters and smoke and everything. So we don't know exactly what caused them to snap, but I do believe that it was that green object that was seen by Kaz, Dave, and our third possible witness, Mike Hembry, calling themselves Mike Hembry, from that night. Because nothing else, and there's the date again, look, because nothing else seems to fit the timeline or series of events that were taking place that night. And there's just another close-up of the trees there, look, you can see they're all standing. Nothing wrong with them, look. You know, so, and again, here, You know, this one was already there, but that's not really much of a tree. That's just some sort of big branch. But this is the entrance, look. And assuming this video is around roughly the time of the 21st of February 2016, may have been done a bit sooner, but you know, you can see the trees are all in very good condition, standing tall and looking as they should be. But as of the 26th of February 2016, you know, this area became changed by something that came into this area, impacting with some force. You can see that it broke a number of the trees. They're in the videos of Kaz Clark, the other witness Dave, and the other two witnesses to those events, Donna and Steve. Those are aliases, by the way, they're not their real names. But they are friends of Kaz and neighbors. And, you know, again, this is what it looks like now. You can see that tree branch that was in the 21st of February video, still there now. Again, look, broken tree, broken tree, broken tree. And a lot of it ended up down there as well. So this area was changed on the 26th of February 2016 in the early hours of the morning. Everything fits a timeline. Everything fits with the evidence we can show. So it just leaves the question, what impacted that area? This is a very nice graphic that was done by Vincent Palmer, and if any of you would like to get a copy of that, go to his website and order a copy from him. He was a very nice person who did that for us here. You know, he did these visuals, and there were reports of green objects and red objects seen going down to Swansea area, going down to the South Wales Penarth area, and some were seen in Llantrisant that night. We have spoken to some people now who confirm these things, and that will be made available later in another series of videos. But as I said, the green object was seen leaving the Pentyrch fields and heading over to Llantrisant. Is it possible that, you know, this is what happened? This thing was shot down by one of these Apache helicopters. There's two in the picture here because the other one's already gone off to Cardiff International Airport, and that's Vincent Palmer making a nice visual there. I mean, I think this is probably what happened. I can't confirm it 100%, but look at the evidence. I mean, look at the timeline, the series of events. What was going on in this area? You know, you make of it what you want, but I think that green object, whatever was acting as a recon, which came out the top of the pyramid as seen by Kaz and Dave, went over to Llantrisant area, and then may have taken refuge in Smilog Wood. May have been there for some time, and then decided that maybe it needed to leave and got chased, or these Apache helicopters, along with many other military vehicles still in the area, saw it coming and then opened fire on it. And they probably waited until it got into the Llantrisant common area because it's a big open field. There's no, probably less chance or less risk of it hitting anything residential. I mean, that's just my idea, but knowing the case as well as I do, and hopefully when you get a chance to see this evidence, you may feel that that is the most likely scenario again. So, you know, thanks to Vincent Palmer for these. You know, lovely visuals on the barrel and the flames. So, you know, make up your own mind, but that's what I think happened here. Now, as part of my research into the EMF, electromagnetic fields, electromagnetic radiation, I came across EMF exposure symptoms. Now, the reason I looked into this is because a number of us who came from Swansea UFO Network and those who came just to speak with Kaz and Dave and wanted to look at the area, we would spend a considerable amount of time in these fields, anywhere between an hour to 3 hours, depending on what we were doing, because it's such a large area. But some of us came down with very strange symptoms when we were in there for extended periods of time. We came down with dizziness, fatigue, headaches, irritation of the skin. I felt these symptoms quite strongly. Others complained of stomach upsets, loss of equilibrium, balance seemed to be affected. And this didn't happen just once. This wasn't an isolated thing. It happened to us like 3 or 4 times on average. Myself and Mike Maunder, who I worked very closely with during the time that we did the EMF study and the scans and everything, we complained about this quite often. And a number of other people said something similar. And that got my curiosity because, any exposure to radiation for long periods, especially if it's high enough, depending on its frequency, of course, on the electromagnetic spectrum. But, I came to a website. I looked at a number of websites, actually. And you can go to things like this. The link is up by here, look. This one calls itself EMF Academy. This is the article, who it was written by, and the date, look. Talks about EMF exposure symptoms. And you can scroll down here. Talks about how a German doctor published scientific data in a medical journal describing odd symptoms many of his patients were experiencing that lived or operated near local radio towers. Although we called it microwave sickness, today many know it as EHS, or electromagnetic hypersensitivity. Some of the EMF exposure symptoms he described in this journal were severe headaches, inability to sleep or exhausting upon wakening, fatigue, frequent infection and dizziness. A website talking about, should you be worried about EMF exposure? Again, it talks about cell phones, microwaves, Wi-Fi routers. These would be electromagnetic fields in the bandwidth of radio to microwave level range. And the non-ionizing radiation comes from, as you can see, microwave ovens, computers, cell phones, Bluetooth devices. Obviously, ionizing radiation would be ultraviolet, X-rays, or, stuff that you could be exposed to in, places like Chernobyl if you were unfortunate enough to be around at that time. It talks about how the World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer says EMFs are possibly carcinogenic to humans. And you can come to this link and click on this here, and it'll take you to the actual PDF file which has that information in there. But what I'm interested in is the symptoms again. There's many more of them listed here, and these symptoms we actually did have. I mean, look at it. Sleep disturbances include insomnia, headache. Some people say depression and depressive symptoms. Some people were quite eager to get out of those fields. They were feeling rather low and rather down. Something was affecting their mood. Tiredness and fatigue, yeah. Painful, off the itchy sensation. I did have that one. I felt it more like like somebody was slicing my skin with like a rusty blade or something. It wasn't very nice. Lack of concentration, there definitely was some of that in there. Dizziness and irritability, yes, this was something that many people complained about. And of course, restlessness and anxiety, nausea, skin burning and tingling, which I think is something along similar to this. I mean, this is something that we all experienced in this field, and it wasn't on just one occasion. It was like 3 or 4 occasions that myself and Mike Maunder experienced it. Other people who came with us from Swansea UFO Network, and those who came to visit those fields in the times between, especially between October 2017 and going into February 2018, when we were doing our scans of these fields. Now, how to explain that? There was something artificial that stayed in the ground for long periods of time and was high enough to affect us in such a way. And just to look at more information on physical evidence and EMF fields and UFOs, this is a good article by Patricia Mason, and it goes into the abduction experience, or I would even say close-up UFO experience. This is more symptoms reported from EMF and those of UFO reported symptoms. And again, strange sensation in hands, tingling, hair standing on end, problems with sleep disorders, allergic responses such as sinus problems, headache, fatigue, cardiovascular and digestive disorders, disorientation, stress type responses, post-traumatic stress disorder, poor appetite, depression, physiological changes involving muscle or joint pains, and of course it goes on about implants, marks on body, anti-tumoral effects on unexplained healing, talks about memory loss, missing time, acute sensitivity in organs, increased in perceived psychic abilities. Kaz has had serious medical problems with this experience, and you know, Dave has also had psychological and physiological effects due to the experience that they both had, and it most likely comes from the encounter with the 2 barrel-shaped orbs, the one that stayed red above the bush and the one that came into the tree and went from red to green and laid out this or put out this green energy of light which surrounded them both. It's just interesting that all the information that I've gathered is consistent with what we've learned in the investigation of the Pentyrch UFO incident. So, I mean, this is just me being thorough, because I like to be as thorough as I can. It's just interesting that this would have happened to them just after this sighting had taken place and this experience that they had, and the complications that have arisen, you know, in the years that have followed. Again, just more consistent evidence with the information. You know, I can't make this up. Nobody can make this up. I can't make it up. Kaz Clark can't make it up. Dave, the other witness, can't make it up. And anyone who says they are, you know, I hope this video will change your mind. I hope the presentations that we did along with this will help you change your mind. But for those who say there's nothing to this, you know, that it's all just a load of nonsense, well, you know, that's your loss. You know, you're just living in ignorance, so I'll leave you to it. Now, I just want to show that, again, all areas have been covered, because it's been suggested that plant life, grass, trees, anything in the countryside does not leave EMF residue. I don't really call it residue. I call it residual energy from an artificial source, an artificial power source, that being had to have been the craft that was seen by Kaz and Dave, and possibly our third witness who made a statement on South Wales Awakening. And just to show you, look, you know, it says here at EMF Advice, this is another website I will make links to. I will make all links available for you to check them out. 10 plants that can absorb electromagnetic radiation. What it's just saying is that plants such as cactus, snake plant, your spider plant, your betel leaf plant, all these things are very effective at absorbing electromagnetic radiation. And I find that interesting because of what has happened to the bushes and the trees, and you know, including the ball patch area. You know, is this what we're finding in the ground? Is this an indication of that? You know, is this, you know, is what happened? You know, that it absorbed that radiation, kept it there for some period of time, left it there for us to be able to scan with our EMF detector. And again, if you were in those fields for long periods of time, long enough periods of time, you know, the symptoms that people described and what I experienced myself are very consistent with EMF exposure. You know, especially in the non-ionizing radiation, I would say within either high radio frequency level or in more towards the higher end of the microwave level, because although my electromagnetic radiation detector did not give me the frequency range, but it scans within radio to microwave level ranges. And it may well have been that those frequencies could have been higher. I just don't know. But isn't it interesting that everything that we've discovered, you know, points to that, can point to that. Someone asking about radiation effects on plants. Does radiation have an effect on plants? That's the question. And two good answers here. Radiation would damage plant cells the same as anything else, but I would guess the effect would be even less than on simple organisms like insects, which can withstand 10 to 100 times more radiation dose than humans can. Radiation does affect plants. However, they are generally less sensitive to it. The majority of plants, such as trees, for example, are dead or slowly dividing. These cells are therefore less likely to experience the negative effects of radiation. The fast-growing parts of the plants and trees would be at greatest risk of negative effects. Still, I would guess that the plants could survive radiation doses of more than 10 to 100 times that would kill mammals. Okay, I won't argue with that. But isn't it interesting that the trees, the leaves, and the branches that the leaves would grow on would be affected? As you saw in the bushes, by the gate where the red barrel was seen, and the one that came into the tree area where Kaz was standing on the gate and Dave was just behind her, this green beam that they described affected the right side of the tree that seems to show unusual discoloration in the leaves, as opposed to the left side in the photograph anyway, which is more green again. I mean, you know, this information is consistent. It is consistent. I mean, you can make of it what you want, but I mean, I don't know how much more thorough you can be. Why I say microwave level is because of the symptoms and the EMF fields that were being given off, and as the information, the physical effects on the plant life that was there, as well as the strange snow. I mean, this is all consistent stuff. And, you know, when you look at the case study histories, other things which also left physical traces, I think this is very, very good evidence and good information which is consistent with the case and evidence that I found and that everyone else has helped us find during this time. Just to now look at some case histories involving electromagnetic fields and UFO sightings where people have studied such phenomena, can I introduce to you 3 cases which I've chosen. One of them is this PDF file here, which is titled Strong Magnetic Field Detected Following a Sighting of an Unidentified Flying Object. This is by Bruce Maccabee, and the sighting involves a disc-shaped craft in the Gulf Breeze of Florida in September of 1992. Now, just to read the rest of the abstract, it says, investigators made an area search using a flux gradient magnetometer and found a strong magnetic field gradient indicative of a strong source of magnetic field which appeared to be at or above the tops of some trees near a small pond. 3 circles of depressed grass were found in the bottom of the shallow pond. This paper discusses the sighting, the area search, the circles and the field gradient measurements. An estimate of the field strength is presented and compared with magnetic effects associated with other sightings. So, this is the sighting here. The witness saw a disc-shaped craft coming up behind the back of a building, small house. It came over the trees, and then as soon as it got above the tree line, it disappeared into the sky. Now, what I want to look at is the discovery of the magnetic field, because I've done enough reading on this subject to know that anyone who's ever done a UFO investigation and has looked for electromagnetic fields or any kind of high magnetic field readings, they always seem to appear near the ground or somewhere around the tree lines when these objects have been spotted and been investigated later on. It says by here, look, that he used a GA52 model manufactured by the Schoenstedt Instrument Corporation. Said that this particular device is battery powered, and how it measures the electrical fields is that the gradiometer is a battery-powered device which has a cylindrical rod pipe called a wand that is attached to a cylindrical case, see figure 2. In the wand are 2 rigidly mounted fluxgate magnetometers with their axes orientated along the rod and which are spaced about 51 centimeters apart. Each fluxgate is sensitive to the component of the magnetic field B along the axis of the wand. The electronic circuitry in the cylindrical case measures the magnitude of the difference in the component B value sensed by the 2 flux gates. What it's saying is that the 2 sensors here, sensor A and sensor B, with the source being measured nearby, the difference of the strength of the field is measured between the 2 fields, as you can see by the lines here, and then that would give him the reading that he is looking for. Now on page 10, following into page 11, once Bruce Maccabee and his fellow researchers finish doing their measurements, they do go into some discussion as to what could have been the source, or what may have been the source of what they discovered. And I don't have time to sort of break this all down and give you the sort of basic understanding of it. But there's other discussions here as well of other cases where magnetic fields have been found, where other people had used similar methods. But what I can show you at the bottom on page 15 is that they come to their conclusions. They look at estimated sizes of the actual craft, but it just says here, you know, an area search was made with a magnetic field gradiometer. The search discovered locations of enormously high field gradient in the absence of known sources. So basically they're just saying that a UFO was observed, a flying saucer of some description, and when they went looking for electromagnetic fields, you know, they discovered something that was unusual to that area. Now another case I want to take a look at, and this is a very interesting one. It's considered by many to be one of the best UFO cases for physical evidence and science. It's known as the Trans-El Province case. It happened on January 8th, 1981. There's its location, look. Transcend Province, Host de France. And it actually was featured on Close Encounters Discovery. I believe it was Season 2, Episode 12. And the interesting thing about all this is that there was an analysis team by the French government and various other agencies. And some of their analysis is right here, look. You know, you can just see some of the basic notes here. It said, the local police were notified of the event following day by Mr. Nicolai, directly on the advices of his neighbour's wife, Mrs. Morin. The police proceeded to interview Mr. Nicolai, take photos of the scene, and collect soil and plant samples from the field. The case was later sent to GPAN, as it was known at the time, for review. Analysis noted that the ground had been compressed by a mechanical pressure of about 4 or 5 tons and heated to between 300 and 600 degrees Celsius. Trace amounts of phosphate and zinc were found in the sample material, and analysis of resident alfalfa near the landing site showed chlorophyll levels between 30% and 50% lower than expected. Here's another page look showing the similar details. And you can go down here and read about the case, the photographs, and again, it just shows you that there was quite a bit of work done into this. But you know, they had a series of reports done, and the conclusion of this report was: physical phenomenon of unexplained nature, high probability of electromagnetic mode of propulsion. So again, you know, EMF basically being involved. And I'll make links to all this available to anyone who wants to check them out.
The two main points of this case, which was studied officially, is that it left a lot of physical evidence to study. The second point is that it was one of the most thoroughly investigated cases scientifically in all UFO history.
GPAN, a unit of the French space agency mandated to investigate UFO reports, is called in to examine the site and collect soil and vegetation samples for analysis. The samples taken by forensic technicians are quickly analyzed in the lab. The results are startling. Plant matter taken from the landing spot show a significant reduction in chlorophyll levels, as if the plants had aged with unnatural speed. This effect is consistent with exposure to radiation. The soil underwent a chemical reaction that typically takes place nearly 600 degrees centigrade, well over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This temperature is consistent with microwave radiation, like the type that's used in a microwave oven. But scientists do not comprehend how the craft could have propelled itself with microwaves. Because of the rare physical evidence, the case attracts intense media interest in France and continues to be studied by UFO experts today.
One case that has many similarities to the Pentyrch UFO incident is Rendlesham Forest. Now, this is Colonel Holt. He's talking at a conference, and he's just going to describe a number of things which are very similar to what we have found in our investigations of Pentyrch.
In late December 1980, I was called upon to investigate a very strange event. An event that was distracting our security police from their primary duties. Early on the morning of 26 December 1980, our police patrolman discovered strange lights in the forest east of the back-gated RAF Woodbridge. 3 patrolmen were dispatched to investigate. They reported a strange craft, triangular in shape, sitting on 3 legs. The craft was approximately 3 meters on a side. It had multiple lights. It rapidly maneuvered and quickly disappeared. At the site we found 3 1.5-inch indentations, triangular in pattern. Now today I have a plaster cast of one of those 3 indentations. And as you can see, it's about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches deep, and about 9 inches across. An interesting point is that the forest floor there was very hard-packed sand. In order to make 3 impressions of this nature, it would have had to have been a very heavy object. We discovered mild radiation and evidence of broken branches on the trees. We suddenly observed a very bright red-orange object. It was oval and with a black center. It reminded me of an eye, and it appeared to be winking or blinking. It maneuvered horizontally through the trees with an occasional vertical movement. When approached, it receded and silently broke into 5 white objects. We moved out of the forest and onto a pasture and observed several objects in the sky, multiple objects to the north. They changed shape from elliptical to round. Several other objects were seen to the south. One approached at a very high speed and sent down a strange beam right at our feet. It was different than an ordinary light, and it didn't radiate. It was more like a laser beam. Another object sent down beams of light into the weapons storage area. The whole time we had difficulty communicating with the base, as all 3 radio frequencies that we were using kept breaking up. I have no idea what we saw that night, but I do know with great certainty it was under intelligent control.